What's up, Knife World? This is Ryan with KPL here today with the Lander by Knafs. Now, you all probably know Ben Peterson. He's been around for a long time, working for a few of the biggest companies in the knife world, including makers and sellers. He's recently gone into business for himself after the smashing success of his Banter series of knives made by We. Well, now he's come out with a new knife. This is his Lander. It shares a lot of the characteristics of the Banter, but has some really exciting features that I am particularly excited about. First of all, the form factor is just a bit bigger than his Banter series. This one fits a little better with a 4-finger grip, which I like. I tend to be a larger knife guy, but this is the perfect everyday carry and a really great gift this Christmas for somebody just getting into knives, because it comes in at a price point that fits any budget. For around that $50 to $70 price point, here you're getting an extremely high quality knife that's made to a high level of precision. Your blade centering is going to be right on. This comes with caged ceramic bearings, really nice thumb studs, and just a lockup that's great. One of the coolest things that Ben did in designing this knife is he designed it so that it would be easy for third-party companies to plug and play their parts to fit his knife. So if you go to his website, you can actually download the CAD files for the scales that fit on this knife. What that enables other people to do is to very quickly set up their mill or set up their 3D printer to replicate a scale that will fit this knife exactly. Because the aftermarket scale business has been booming. I view it as a good thing for both the knife makers. Spyderco is very popular in this regard. Benchmade is very popular in this regard, with third parties making scales to dress up your knife and to mod the knife and to make it really into something that's unique to you. Ben has embraced that and enabled you to do it right off the bat. So I figured that today we would go ahead and make our own scales for this thing. I am not much of a maker myself, but I happen to own a 3D printer. So we're gonna go ahead and go to Ben's website. We're gonna download the STL files, which are the files you need to 3D print scales for this knife. And then we're gonna print them. This is something you could take to your local library. Most of the libraries in the country now have 3D printers that you can either rent or, usually you just pay for the cost of materials. And the amount of plastic that goes into a scale like this is going to be on the order of maybe $1 or $2. This is also something you could have a friend with a 3D printer put together for you, or something you could even order out from a company that does custom 3D prints. Let's go ahead and get started by partially disassembling this knife. Ben made this knife so that it's easily partially disassembled without you having to get into any of the internals to just do a scale swap. That's technology he borrowed from Three Rivers. They did this previously with their Atom and Neutron series of knives, where the scales are held on by just a couple of screws, those pop off, and the skeleton of the knife remains unaffected underneath. Let's pull out our Torx bits and a driver and get ourselves started. All right, and this knife takes T6 bits for all of those external scale screws. So we're just gonna go ahead and remove those with some gentle pressure, making sure that we're gentle with those screws. T6 is a pretty small dimension. We'll store those in the tray here. This is a tray by Asphalt Trays that I really like for disassembling my knives. The maker over there, owner of the company, is a friend of mine, and he lasered my logo onto this one for me. So all it takes is to remove these 4 screws, 2 that hold on the scales and 2 that plug this reversible pocket clip filler. Move those 4 screws. And then the scales just pop right off of this thing, like that. On the reverse side, it's the same thing. We've got 2 screws. On this side, they're holding on the pocket clip, but note that this pocket clip is totally reversible. And then 2 screws holding on the scales. Certainly feels like Ben is having temporary Loctite or medium strength Loctite used on these to make it easy enough for people to take these apart without the knife ever rattling apart at the same time. You can see there's just a little bit of oil in here that was probably meant to keep the parts from rusting during shipping storage. That is actually all you have to do if you want to mod the knife. This thing is a unitary part that you don't have to further disassemble. If you're not into taking these things apart and adjusting them, that is absolutely as far as you have to go. And on this project, that's as far as I'm going to go. This knife works great. It came with great action out of the box. The detent feels perfect. Very high quality bearings in this thing. What I am going to go ahead and do though is apply some knife pivot lube, because that always improves knives. We make great knives better. This is a great knife. Because it's a small blade without a ton of momentum, I want to preserve all the speed that we get during deployment of the knife. And so I'm going to use a lightweight lubricant that's KPL Ultralight. Just a bit thinner than our typical variety. So I will apply that there. You can see it wick its way into the space between the blade and the skeletonized liners here. Move that back and forth a few times, and then we will simply swab away any excess that remains. I like using these little microfiber swabs because they're very helpful, but KPL will help keep this knife clean as it's being used if you just swab away that excess dirt that gets attracted to the knife over time, and reapply when things start to feel a bit gritty. There we go. Let's head over to my computer. We'll download these files and run them through the 3D printer. Okay, we're just going to go to Google, type in Knafs Lander. That should pull up the results for Ben's website. We'll go ahead and click on that. You can see lots of scale options already being shown to you, but here's his site. Click on the Lander, and on the home page, he's got some additional scales. We can go ahead and pull up the CAD files, and we will download the STL modification for 3D printing. That's going to be real easy, and any 3D printing software will recognize this file. So click on that, allow the file to download, and then we'll come over to our slicer. In our slicer, we're going to add a file. We will go ahead and select the STL that we just downloaded, open that. It should show up on your build plate, all ready to go. We'll just go ahead and make sure that the infill of plastic on this part is set to 100%. It is here. We will go ahead and